The Trump administration recently announced a controversial new policy. It plans to criminally investigate state and local officials. These investigations will target individuals seen as resisting federal immigration enforcement efforts. This represents a significant escalation in the administration's ongoing efforts to strengthen immigration control. It has sparked intense debate across the nation. This new policy underscores the administration's commitment to strict immigration enforcement. It also highlights the ongoing tension between federal and local authorities on immigration matters. Many states and cities have resisted federal immigration directives. They argue these directives often contradict their values and local laws. This new policy is likely to further inflame these tensions. The administration argues that this measure is necessary to uphold federal law. They claim it will deter future resistance to immigration enforcement. However, critics argue that the policy is politically motivated. They believe it aims to punish jurisdictions that don't align with the administration's immigration agenda. The policy's announcement has generated strong reactions from both sides of the immigration debate. Supporters praise the administration for taking a tough stance on illegal immigration. They believe that local officials should be held accountable for obstructing federal law. Opponents, however, condemn the move as an overreach of federal authority. They express concern about the potential for abuse and intimidation. Section 2. Targets and justification for the investigations. The primary targets of these investigations are officials who directly impede the work of immigration and customs enforcement agents. This includes officials who refuse to comply with ICE detainer requests. Detainer requests are requests by ICE to local law enforcement agencies. They ask these agencies to hold individuals suspected of being in the country illegally, even after they would otherwise be released. The Trump administration argues that these officials, by resisting detainer requests, are hindering efforts to maintain national security and public safety. They claim that non-cooperation with ICE allows dangerous criminals to be released back into communities, putting citizens at risk. They also argue that it undermines the rule of law by obstructing the enforcement of federal immigration statutes. Critics, however, argue that ICE detainer requests are often based on flawed information. They point out that these requests can lead to the detention of U.S. citizens and legal residents, violating their constitutional rights. They also argue that complying with these requests without judicial warrants raises serious legal concerns about due process and unlawful detention. This clash of perspectives highlights the complexities surrounding immigration enforcement. It also underscores the deep divisions in how different levels of government view these issues. The administration's decision to pursue criminal investigations against local officials represents a significant escalation in this ongoing conflict. Section 3. Potential legal charges and repercussions. While the administration has not yet specified what charges could be brought against officials who resist immigration enforcement, potential charges could include obstruction of justice, harboring illegal immigrants, or conspiracy. These charges carry serious penalties, including lengthy prison sentences and hefty fines. The possibility of criminal charges is likely to have a chilling effect on local governments and law enforcement agencies. Many may feel pressured to comply with federal immigration requests, even if they have legal or moral objections. This could lead to a decrease in the number of sanctuary cities and a weakening of local resistance to federal immigration policies. However, the administration's move is also likely to face significant legal challenges. Several states and cities have already indicated their intention to fight the policy in court. They argue that the administration's interpretation of federal law is overly broad and infringes on states' rights. They also contend that the threat of criminal prosecution amounts to coercion and undermines the principles of federalism. These legal battles could take years to resolve and are likely to be appealed up to the Supreme Court. The outcome of these cases will have far-reaching consequences for the balance of power between the federal government and states on immigration enforcement. Section 4. Political implications and challenges. The Trump administration's decision to criminally investigate officials who resist immigration enforcement is a highly controversial move with significant political implications. This action is likely to further polarize the already heated national debate on immigration. It could also impact the 2026 midterm elections, potentially mobilizing voters on both sides of the issue. This policy is likely to face strong opposition from Democratic lawmakers and immigrant rights groups, who view it as an attack on sanctuary cities and an attempt to intimidate local governments. They argue that it will create a climate of fear and distrust, making immigrant communities less likely to cooperate with law enforcement. They also express concern that it will divert resources away from other law enforcement priorities. On the other hand, the administration's move is likely to be applauded by Republican lawmakers and groups who support stricter immigration enforcement. They argue that it is about time that the federal government took a more aggressive stance against sanctuary cities and held local officials accountable for obstructing federal law. They believe that this policy will help to restore the rule of law and deter illegal immigration. The administration's decision to pursue criminal investigations is a high-stakes gamble with potentially significant consequences. It remains to be seen how this policy will be implemented, how local governments will respond, and how the courts will rule on its legality. However, one thing is certain: this move will further ignite the debate over immigration enforcement and the balance of power between the federal government and states.